They told me I was too hard, too independent, too strong to ever find love. And when I pulled over that silver Bentley doing 90 on the interstate, flashing my badge at the most powerful man in the city, I never imagined he'd look at me like I was his entire world. Before we dive into my story, do me a favor. Hit that subscribe button and ring the bell. Because what I'm about to share with you changed everything I thought I knew about love, power, and who I was meant to be. Trust me, you don't want to miss a single moment. My name is Simone Rivers. I'm a detective with the Southside Precinct, and for 8 years I wore that badge like armor. They called me the Ice Queen at the station. Not because I was mean, but because I never let anything slide, never bent the rules, never let emotions cloud my judgment. I learned early that in this job, showing weakness gets you hurt, gets you killed even. My apartment was quiet most nights. Microwave dinners, old jazz records my father left me. He was a cop too. Before a partner he trusted set him up and left him for dead. He survived, but something in him died that day. He taught me one lesson that stuck with me forever. Love makes you vulnerable, and vulnerable gets you destroyed. So I built walls, thick ones, the kind that kept everyone at a safe distance. I was good at my job because I didn't let anything distract me. While other officers were gossiping about their weekends or their dates, I was studying case files. While they were at happy hour, I was at the gun range. Alone felt safer than the alternative. Or at least that's what I kept telling myself every night when I came home to that empty apartment. It was a Tuesday night, close to midnight, when everything changed. I was working a late shift on Highway 45, and this silver Bentley flew past me like the speed limit was just a suggestion. 90 miles per hour in a 65 zone. I flipped on my lights and pulled him over, already annoyed. Rich people always think the rules don't apply to them. When he stepped out of that car, I'll be honest with you, my breath caught. Tall, confident, wearing a suit that probably cost more than my monthly salary. But it wasn't just his looks. It was the way he looked at me. Not like I was an obstacle or an inconvenience. He looked at me like he was genuinely curious about who I was. "Good evening, officer," he said, and his voice was smooth, educated. I know I was speeding, no excuses. I've heard every excuse in the book. The "I didn't realize," the "my wife is pregnant," the "do you know who I am?" But this man just stood there, owning it. I checked his license. Christopher Whitmore. And yeah, I knew who he was. Everyone in the city knew who he was. Tech billionaire, self-made, on the cover of magazines. The kind of man who could make one phone call and have me walking a beat in the worst part of town. But when I handed him that ticket, he didn't flinch. He just smiled this small smile and said, "Detective Rivers, I hope we meet again under better circumstances." He'd read my badge, remembered my name, and something about the way he said it made my heart do this stupid little flutter that I immediately shut down. I watched him drive away, legally this time, and told myself to forget about it. Men like that lived in a different world. My world was crime scenes and court dates and fighting for justice in a city that didn't always want it. The next morning, my captain called me into his office. "Rivers, I've got an assignment for you," he said, sliding a folder across his desk. "Protective detail, high-profile client, death threats from a former business partner." I opened the folder and my stomach dropped. Christopher Whitmore, the man from last night, the billionaire I'd just given a speeding ticket to. "Captain, there are other detectives." I started, but he cut me off. "He specifically requested you, said he was impressed by your professionalism." The captain leaned back in his chair. "You're the best I've got, Rivers. 24/7 protection for at least 2 weeks. Pack a bag." I wanted to argue, but I couldn't. This was my job. So I swallowed my objections and headed to the address in the file. A penthouse downtown, all glass and steel and views that stretched across the entire city. When I knocked, he answered the door himself. No butler or assistant, wearing jeans and a t-shirt, making coffee in his massive kitchen like a regular person. "Detective Rivers," he said, and there was that smile again. "Thank you for coming." I set my boundaries immediately. This was work, nothing more. He was a client. I was his protection, and that was where it ended. He agreed easily, but I saw something flicker in his eyes. Something that made me nervous in a way that had nothing to do with the death threats. The first few days were professional. I shadowed him to meetings, to galas, to his office downtown, and I started noticing things. The way he treated everyone with respect, from the janitor to the CEO, how he remembered people's names, asked about their families. He wasn't what I expected. He wasn't some entitled rich guy playing at being important. He was kind, genuine, smart in a way that had nothing to do with money. And we talked. Long conversations late at night when we were stuck in his office or his penthouse. He told me about building his company from nothing, about losing his parents young, about how lonely it was at the top when everyone wanted something from you. I found myself sharing things I never shared: my father's story, my dreams of making detective, my love of jazz and old movies, and the way the city looked at dawn after a long shift. One night, he played one of my favorite songs, said he remembered me mentioning it. We almost danced right there in his office, and I caught myself leaning in before I pulled back hard. Reminded myself this was temporary, that he was a client, that I couldn't afford to feel what I was starting to feel. "I've never met anyone like you, Simone," he said softly. "You've never met someone who won't fall at your feet, you mean?" I shot back, deflecting like I always did. But he shook his head. "I've met plenty of people who want what I can give them. You're the first person who sees me, just me." That scared me more than any death threat ever could. The charity gala was when everything shifted. He had arranged for a dress to be delivered to my room in the penthouse, which made me furious until I saw it. Simple, elegant, nothing too flashy. It fit perfectly. When I walked out, the way he looked at me, it was like I'd stolen the air from his lungs. At the gala, his ex-girlfriend appeared. Bethany Preston, dripping in diamonds and disdain. She made subtle comments about my background, my job, my presence there, but Chris shut it down immediately, told her to leave. Then he asked me to dance. On that floor, with his hand on my waist and 100 people watching, the rest of the world disappeared. It was just us, moving together like we'd done this 1,000 times. And for a moment, I let myself feel it. The connection, the pull, the terrifying possibility that maybe, just maybe, this was real. Then I spotted the threat: a man moving wrong through the crowd. I shifted instantly, putting myself between Chris and potential danger, my hand on my weapon. Turned out to be an overzealous reporter, but Chris looked at me afterward like I'd hung the moon. "You're incredible," he whispered. "You know that?" Back at the penthouse, the tension finally broke. We argued. I accused him of making this complicated. He fired back that he hadn't planned to feel this way. And then I said the thing I'd been thinking for days: people like you don't end up with people like me. He got angry then. Really angry. "People like me? You mean lonely, searching, human?" He stepped closer. "You think everyone wants me for my money, my status? You're the first person who's ever looked at me and seen just Chris. And it terrifies you because you might actually have to feel something." He was right. I was terrified. So when he kissed me, passionate and desperate and real, I kissed him back. Until reality crashed in and I pulled away, gasping. "This can't happen. I'm your protection detail." The hurt in his eyes broke something in me, but I couldn't take it back. We barely spoke for 2 days. Then the real threat escalated. Trevor Kane, the former business partner, was making his move. Intelligence suggested he'd strike at the big tech conference. I threw myself into the work, coordinating security, planning for every contingency. Chris and I were professional, distant, and it hurt worse than any physical wound. But we still worked perfectly together, in sync, like two parts of a whole. And I realized somewhere in that preparation that I'd already fallen in love with him, completely, terrifyingly, irreversibly. The day of the conference, I was on high alert. Thousands of people, impossible to secure completely. Chris gave his keynote speech while I watched from backstage, every sense heightened. That's when I saw him. Trevor, gun drawn. Pushing through the crowd toward the stage, I didn't think. I just moved. Put myself between Chris and that gun. The shot rang out. Fire exploded in my shoulder, but I took Trevor down anyway. My backup team swarmed in. The last thing I heard before everything went dark was Chris's voice, broken and scared. Stay with me, Simone. Please, stay with me. I woke up 2 days later in a hospital room filled with flowers, and Chris was there, unshaven, exhausted, holding my hand like he'd never let go. Why are you still here? I asked, my voice rough. He looked at me like I'd asked the most ridiculous question in the world. You took a bullet for me. You could have died. I'd do it again, I said honestly, without hesitation. And that's when he broke. Tears in his eyes, voice shaking. I love you. I've loved you since you handed me that speeding ticket with that look in your eyes that said you didn't care who I was or what I could do. I love you, Simone. My own walls crumbled. Years of protection, of keeping people out, of staying safe and alone, gone. Just like that. I love you too, I whispered. I fought it so hard, but I can't anymore. When he kissed me this time, I didn't pull away. But love doesn't exist in a vacuum. When I was released from the hospital, the media storm hit. Headlines everywhere. The comments were brutal, racist, classist, cruel. At the precinct, there were whispers about my professionalism. In his world, society friends pulled away. His ex spread rumors. I started doubting. Maybe everyone's right. Maybe we're from two different worlds. But Chris was certain. Then we built our own world. My captain opened an investigation into my conduct. Chris offered me a job in private security. I resisted. Being a cop was who I was, my father's legacy. But I realized I was hiding him, keeping him separate from my cop friends, my neighborhood. I was doing exactly what I feared, letting other people's opinions define us. Then my mom called. I hadn't told her much, afraid of judgment. Baby, are you happy? She asked. Happier than I've ever been, I admitted. Then that's all that matters. Your daddy would want you happy, sweetheart. Not safe, not approved of. Happy. That changed everything. I decided to stop hiding and start living. At the next police charity event, I walked in holding his hand. Everyone stared, whispered, but I didn't care. I even gave a speech about love and fear and choosing happiness over approval. Some people judged, but many nodded. They saw the courage it took. My partner high-fived me afterward. About time, Rivers. I brought Chris into my world and I stepped into his. We found balance. I got promoted to lieutenant. He started a foundation for police families, my idea. We bought a brownstone together. Not his penthouse, not my apartment. Ours. 6 months later, our life is beautifully ordinary. Me in my uniform making coffee. Him in sweats making breakfast. Still challenges, still judgment sometimes. But we face it together. This morning, he asked me, do you ever regret it? Letting me in? I smiled. Every day I regret waiting so long. People ask me all the time how it works. A cop and a billionaire. And I tell them the truth. The same way any relationship works. With trust, respect, and choosing each other every single day. I thought being strong meant being alone. I was so wrong. He taught me that vulnerability isn't weakness. I taught him that real power comes from being authentic. We're not a fairy tale. We're real people who found real love in the most unexpected place. And every single day, even the hard ones, I choose him all over again. If this story touched your heart, hit that like button and share it with someone who needs to hear that love doesn't follow rules or check boxes. Subscribe for more real stories about real love. And comment below, tell me, what walls are you ready to tear down? What love are you brave enough to choose? I'll see you in the next one. Until then, be strong, be brave, and be open. Love might just surprise you.